Hey, what's going on, guys? Today we're going to be taking a look at a very interesting model kit here from PR Productions. If that name sounds familiar, we did take a look at one other kit from PR Productions before, the Kari Sazanami kit, which was pretty interesting. This one, very interesting in a different way, because we have this really cute chibi character model kit here of Renee Brown, or Renee Brown, I'm not exactly sure which one is supposed to be part of their Isekai Ryoko no Techo series here, and just I want to make a note about how cool the packaging is for this. We'll take a closer look at that here in just a second, and then of course the kit itself. But awesome looking little kit here for something that looks like basically something like you would see from a game, but I don't think there's actually any game that this is from as far as I know, although I could certainly be wrong about that. But I believe this is just the first in what should be a series of model kits here from PR Production that should be quite unique and interesting for sure. So let's go ahead and get into it for today's video. So as you can see here, the box is just like this clear plastic around what our contents are inside, and so it really reminds me a lot of like some of the Kaviko Choi Plot model kits, like the Votoms and Nachin kits we've taken a look at there from Kaviko. But anyway, it's not too much to see here around on the outside of the box other than just the box art here on the front. There you can see our titling and the illustration here, which does look, again, rather cute. But let's go ahead and open it up and check out the contents inside here. So first of all, in this little wrapper bit, this is interesting. What do we have here? Okay, it's a whole bunch of little stuff in here, but it looks to be like maybe some of our pre-printed parts, of which we've got this wooden sword with that little bit of green there printed on it. And then these parts, I think they're for the shield there with a little bit of silver printed on these brown parts. Also got in this gray soft rubber here, a set of closed fists, a set of open expressive hands here, and then a set of weapon holding hands. Also in this softer rubber is going to be like this kind of cloak part, which it's in the soft rubber to bend, but it seems like bending this back and forth is probably going to weaken that and it might break eventually, so I'm not going to mess with it too much. It's gray with a little bit of kind of gold printed on the front of there. And then these parts here, which are also in a gray softer rubber, but as you can see, we have this red printed with this kind of gradient on that. It's supposed to be like kind of part of like the cape there going out the back of the character. Lastly, then we have these two pieces which look to be like they have a film on them. Here we go. Couldn't tell if that was on the front or the back, but if we peel that off, nice and shiny. But this is going to be two little base plate pieces here, it looks like, with some nice flower patterns printed on there. So very interesting. So that stuff was put separately along with our faceplate parts here, it looks like. These we've got two of, one just kind of a regular face and one this kind of a more excited expression face here. We'll take a closer look at those in the review, but yeah, all that stuff was separate because the rest of the runners are packaged together like this as one big stack of runners, and they all kind of fit together. I'd actually seen this here because someone was building it at a recent build day event here at USA Gundam Store. I haven't yet had the chance to build mine yet, obviously, but I saw they were showing me how it's packaged like this, and I thought that's rather interesting. And another thing that reminds me a lot of the Kaviko kits, because they're often, you know, packaged in a similar way like this with the runners connected to each other. But these are just molded in a way so that the runners will just fit into each other here with these little bits there on the runner like that. And so very interesting. As you can see, for the runners, we had this one smaller one here in gray. That looks to be a runner H here. This lighter gray, sort of off-white color here for runner G. Next up is going to be our hair parts and a couple other bits on there. There's another little bit of green printed on this runner here. This is runner F in like a light tan color. Next one is clear for the base. And so it looks like those base parts that we were looking at before will fit on the underside of this, which is great. That's really cool, actually. I think that that's going to look really good, but this is basically our display base parts here. And the last few runners are just going to be A, B, C, D, and I do like how the runner labels kind of go in a line like that, so that's really kind of cool. Just another kind of interesting way of how these are packaged. I guess there's kind of like a little bit of a break if we go like from E and then it kind of skips way over there to runner F. But anyway, runners A, B, C, D. Here you can see these four runners are all going to be in skin tone for just parts of the body that are all in skin tone. So unfortunately, we do not have this kind of little cube character guy included. That would have been really cool, but let's check out the other contents in here. You do have, just kind of, if you include this part of the packaging, basically a little stand here and background piece like this, but I think what you can do is then take this part of the packaging, and on the back side of that looks like just kind of some basic kind of assembly tips. Here's how the kit's gonna look when it's all built and put together. And then here's our runner list here on the other side, and also just all of the contents. But if we kind of fold this back around the opposite way, it looks sort of like what you can maybe do with this is then just put that there and put this here and make kind of a little display. You might want to like glue that or something, but make sort of a kind of display for your kit, something like that maybe, which is kind of cool. Definitely very interesting there. But we do also have our instruction booklet here, which does look to be like it's printed in color, but like all the parts and everything, as you can see, it's just line art that's not actually in color, but it's just like some color for the outlines and step numbers and stuff. But it just goes through the construction, which I'm guessing is going to be a fairly simple kit. As you could see there, just it's not a very large kit either, and we don't have like a ton of parts, so it should be a pretty quick construction. Let me go ahead and get it put together and we'll check it out. Alright guys, so here is the kit all built up. Quite the interesting kit indeed. It's slightly larger than I was expecting, which is cool, and more included than I remembered. So the reason why you guys saw in the runners that we just took a look through, there was a lot of skin tone parts in there, is because I kind of totally forgot that this comes with basically an entire set of parts basically to make the entire body as just like a nude body. Now it's not necessarily meant to make it into a nude body, but it's just meant to make it into a body that then you can put like different like clothing, like doll clothing and stuff bits on, I think. But we will go through all the option parts here in just a moment. But the kit overall is, yeah, like I said, quite interesting. It's not perfect just in terms of like the construction quality, not quite as nice as something we would have like from Kotobukiya, for example. But I think for one of these like kind of interesting novelty sort of character kits like this, that it's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and get into it here, starting off with our accessories. And so first of all, as you were just seeing there, the kit does stand perfectly fine on its own, although you might have to try to get it balanced a little bit just because the feet are a little bit small and they don't really pose all that well, and also it's going to be very top heavy with that big head. But you don't really need to worry about it because you do have two included stands here. Now I was thinking that these cool like designed parts there with the flowers would fit like under the clear parts, which would have been better, but they actually just fit over the top of the clear parts, which means that there's nothing really necessarily like holding them in place. I'm not a huge fan of that, but otherwise it's nice to have two of these in here. And then you can see we've got this connection arm that's in clear with a few points of articulation throughout, and that's just going to plug into the back right here in the center of the back. You can see there's our hard point for that. Our face option parts are pretty nice here. You got all the details printed on. Nothing's actually really molded in. I think if you just like sanded away all of this or stripped the pre-printing off of this, there's not an actual like molded mouth there on the front of the faceplate. It's just printed on decal. So anyway, but those are pretty nice. You also do have an optional hair part here if you didn't want to have this piece attached onto the front. This hair part here for the front just has normal bangs there without the attachment point for that bit. Then for our hand option parts there, we've got a set of these open expressive hands for the left and the right side. We also got a set of closed fists here for the left and the right, and also then our weapon holding hands for the left and the right as well. And then we've got that same set of hands available here in skin tone, holding hands, closed fists, and open hands like so. And yeah, I mentioned about everything being available in skin tone basically as you have all the parts to make the body entirely nude. Basically it's just a matter of omitting these armor pieces here on the arms. For the chest, it's just a matter of omitting these gray armor pieces, and you have this optional just like flat chest piece here essentially just to cover that. And then here in the waist section, we also have our skin tone parts there for that part of the kit as well. Going down to the legs then, it's the same thing. You just omit the option parts, and then you have an optional part here for the knee, as the front of the knee joint gets replaced with this gray part here. Otherwise that's just in skin tone. And then we have our option for just the skin tone colored bare feet here as well if you wanted to make the legs without the armor on. Lastly then, for our handheld accessories, here we've got the shield, which has a handle here on the back and that nice silver printed on the front of that. Looks pretty cool. This goes well with our wooden sword. So she's got the wooden shield, the wooden sword here, and the sword's got a little leaf growing out of it there as well. That's kind of fun. And then you do also have a metal sword in here as well, or what's meant to look like a kind of traditional regular sword, I guess anyway. A little bit of green printed on the yellow parts there for the handles. So a couple of different options there that you have for the sword and the shield. And so you got a nice amount of stuff in here. Pretty simple, but I think that reflects the kind of overall look of the kit anyway. One thing that I kind of don't really care so much for is the armor piece there at the neck. I feel like the way that that's designed makes the head looks like it's like up on like a weird riser, and it also limits your articulation at the neck as well. So omitting that, I just want to kind of show you guys how this is going to look without that. I mean, then it obviously looks much more bare there without that neck armor, but I think that does allow you more articulation here in the head, more kind of up and down movement, whereas with that you're just kind of stuck with like a straight on pose like that. You can actually pose the head a bit more without that piece on. And yeah, those softer plastic parts like here for the skirt section here, that doesn't really do a whole lot, as then like there's not really any reason for that to be flexible. These parts here at the back as well. I would prefer like maybe a couple of different options of some like fixed pose parts here for this instead of flexible parts. Just like a set of parts for them to be just like down and maybe like sort of inactive sort of, and then maybe a set with them looking kind of more like they're blowing in the wind sort of for doing more kind of like action poses. I think would have been nice, better than this, because this is just kind of, I mean, the printing on here is nice, that cool red to gray gradient. But otherwise, I mean, they're just kind of there and they're flexible, but there's not really any reason for them to be, honestly. Otherwise, aside from the neck articulation, the rest of the articulation is going to be about as you would expect. Fairly simple, but pretty standard for a kit like this. The arms are just a single joint and will give you maybe about 90 degrees before you bend that too much and it's going to pop off the hand. The other thing that's kind of weird is that although you have the hands in this darker color, the wrist joints we only have in skin tone, so it looks a bit weird. I think it would have been nice to have dark gray colored wrist joints for when you have the armor on, because it looks a bit weird for the wrist just kind of appearing there in skin tone between like the gloved hands and this armor piece there. It's a bit odd, because down here for the legs, for example, you do have dark gray parts for the ankle joint there, as well as flesh tone color parts for if you're having just like the non-armored legs. So overall, a fairly simple kit with fairly simple accessories, fairly simple articulation, and you know, nothing too groundbreaking. But I think one thing that is really nice about this kit, the thing that made me want to check it out, is just the style of it. It's just a style that we don't really see a whole lot of, and something that obviously you might see a lot in like mobile games or something like that, but we don't really see, I guess, like in model kit form all that much. This sort of like little more simple, just kind of cute, chibi sort of style, something like that. So if you wanted a little bit more variety from just kind of the standard 30-minute sisters, Megami device, you know, frame arms girl type of stuff, I think this definitely offers something nice. And I gotta say, although the packaging doesn't affect the finished model in any way whatsoever, I gotta say I did appreciate the little bit more kind of stylish, sort of creative way that the kit was packaged. So that's kind of nice. And as always, aside from just what you're seeing here in the review, imagining the potential of this kit, how much better it's going to look if it was actually all painted up, if you actually painted those armor pieces in like a actual silver kind of color and just added some details and stuff to this, I think it would look really, really nice. And so thinking about it in that way, it's definitely one that I think you could have a lot of fun with if this was something that you were interested in. But I don't know, is this something that you guys find interesting, or are you looking forward to more kits out in this series in the future? Let me know in the comment section. What do you think? And as always, if you want to check out some more kits like this, you can check the link in the video description to USA Gundam Store. We've got this kit and more there on the website, so check it out. And as always, guys, thanks so much for all of your support. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, you can leave a like. If you're not yet subscribed yet, you can just hit the subscribe button right down there as well. And with that, till next time, guys, have a good one. See you later. Bye.